left and took leave for about 6 months to run the governor's reelection campaign. And so that's why I was not with the board, and Abby was great in keeping everything all together while I was gone, which is a big load for just one person to manage. So I'm thankful to come back and see all the progress that we've been making for the board as a whole. But I think Abby and I both recognize that the committees have not been able to be a top priority when it was just her working by herself. So, we're kind of eager to get back into it. Just as a couple kind of administrative updates, returning back to the governor's office, I'm now a senior advisor to the governor on workforce development, which means I have a much bigger role in the policy development process, and the role of the workforce board and the policy development process is obviously impacted by that, which is, I think, a good thing for everyone who's involved. We are actually likely to get an allocation to the state workforce board this year to do some work in relocating new Americans. That's not necessarily relevant necessarily to this committee, but it just, as an overview, they're starting to task us with some system improvement work, and I'm pretty excited about that. So just some good, exciting things happening from that front. I don't know if we sent it to you all, but Abby will make sure to follow up. We've been trying to send out, and we're continuing to send out bi-weekly updates on what's going on in the legislature. So we've got an overview of what the governor's budget is as it relates to workforce development, childcare, paid family leave, and then we'll just continue to update you on what's going on in different committees as they take up different bills or different priorities. Admittedly, right now, workforce has not been a top priority for the committees as they're getting started, just because they've been focused on the Budget Adjustment Act. But I anticipate that it's going to be a pretty hot topic towards the end of February and March. So we'll keep you on the loop. But with that, and Abby will send you all an invite, we have weekly office hours. They're virtual on Fridays. You're not required to attend, but if you read our policy email and you're like, I really hate this idea, or I want to get more information about this idea, or I think the governor's missing something here, or the legislature's missing something here, we just have that as an opportunity for you to come and talk to us. Obviously, if timing doesn't work and you'd like to set up a one-on-one meeting to talk with us about policy, that's totally fine as well. But we just wanted to have like a weekly touch point for folks on the committees and on the board to be able to share their thoughts on what's going on in the legislative process, so we can in real time incorporate your feedback and, have testimony if needed on certain legislative action. So with that, as an overview, we are moving full speed ahead on the board's overall strategic plan. We have just voted out our framework out of the operations committee, and we'll be reviewing it on Thursday. So following the Thursday meeting, we can give you an update on where we're at with that framework. But each section is really tailored toward different pieces of the workforce system. So the first piece is really just on our WIOA compliance and performance metrics for all of our programs that are happening. The difference here and what we'll be doing is we'll essentially be enforcing and monitoring all performance of state and federal allocations of workforce, so that in real time the board can make recommendations to the governor on whether things are effective or need course correction. Then we'll be doing some work on just, existing workforce supports, coordinating services. There'll be a lot of system-wide mapping that the board is going to be tasked with doing per the governor's request to essentially make the system stronger and more integrated and not as duplicate. So that's kind of an overview. And then the other piece is this new American relocation work that we're going to be trying to do. The governor's very keen on us getting immigrants and refugees and asylum seekers, more of them, to move to Vermont. And to do this right now, as I'm sure any of you who've dealt with this type of worker or these types of visas, the process is incredibly complicated. There's not a lot of information at the state level, and when it comes to navigating this process for both employers and the individuals themselves, it's incredibly hard. So this is paired. So it's to two-part allocation. One goes to Tracy Dolan in the immigration office, who's focused solely on any means necessary getting people to come to Vermont and how we can support them, just because the federal money that we get is so hamstrung to what you can do. And then the other piece is an allocation to the workforce board, which hopefully passes, that would allow us to contract with someone to map out the system and take stakeholder engagement and provide a framework to build out a relocation system for new Americans that we would then also translate into a relocation system for all folks. So it's really kind of a big deal for us to be involved in this coordination as a whole. That being said, and again, we'll send you the full strategic plan for people to look at. We each, within the strategic plan, we are including the committees having, we're calling them one pagers. They likely won't just be one page. Where each committee has its own kind of body of work in charge. And so that's really what we're going to be talking about today. Abby will either put it in the chat and share her screen in a moment, and I know this is the first time everyone's looking at this, but how we've set these up is we've taken kind of the situation for the committee, whatever it is. So, what's the current state of play? What we identify as generally the principles of the solution to the problem, and then milestones that the committee will work towards in order to help achieve this mission. This committee is a little bit different than others in that what we're trying to do with our work is twofold. I'm not putting you on the spot, Robin, so you don't need to worry about that, but VMEC is partnered with Vermont Talent Pipeline essentially to do the pipeline development for the manufacturing sector. This is not a small undertaking, but correct me if I'm wrong, Robin or Abby, but we don't believe that it's the committee's role to kind of duplicate these efforts. So we're hoping that we've included a placeholder in this for us to identify where the best area of supplement is for this committee to help the work that VMEC is doing. So we're ongoing in the collaboration there, but likely what I would say is Robin and her folks will probably present on kind of what they're doing to this committee, and then we can make a decision together about and Robin can obviously give recommendations on here's how we can help make this process. Because I understand and recognize that the development of a pipeline, a strong pipeline that we can promote, feed into, that's sustainable, is a huge chunk of this work. But again, I don't want us to do that work while they're already doing it. So that's just kind of a placeholder. The other piece of it, based on feedback that we've received from you, from business owners, now even from our meeting that we had with the VMEC folks and some of their stakeholders, is this idea of rebranding manufacturing. Rebranding what it means, rebranding the type of career that could be, what you're involved in, and getting that information tailored to students, younger, middle, older, returning workers. This was very apparent to me actually when we toured VTC with Barry, and they talked about the manufacturing of snowboards and how cool that was for Abby and I, but those are things that, as a young kid, when you're thinking about manufacturing, you're thinking about some guy in Ohio making a car, doing it over and over and over again. And it's not, this type of career can be very different. So one of the things that we feel like that could be a good area for this committee to focus on is on this essentially a rebranding campaign for manufacturing, getting exposure to students at an earlier age and helping fulfill and sustain a pipeline into this type of career. Obviously, manufacturing is very broad, but I think in general, we need to transition away from people thinking it's low wage, no earning potential, no career growth jobs, where that's just the opposite right now. And also it's a growing sector in Vermont. So essentially that's what our focus of the one pager for this committee is. But when we're going through this is just a jumping off point. Today, what we want to do is just take general feedback from you all, get your initial thoughts, and we'll send you this, and then we'll get everyone can mark it up, track changes, whatever they want, make as many changes, put in suggestions, redirect as much as possible. We'll make edits, send it back to the group, run another round of edits, send it back to the group, another round of edits, send it back to the group, so that when we're at our next meeting, we can start to discuss what this will look like. And ultimately, before we finish our full strategic plan, this group will have a course of action that we're taking to directly impact this work, so that we don't just come talk about the fact that there's a workforce shortage and not actually get anything tangible done. So I'll take any questions and then I'll have Abby share her screen and we can go through just kind of the different situations. Nope. All righty. All right, Abigail. So again, in terms of feedback today, if you need to dig into this deeper and things come up, that's okay. We're going to be taking many rounds of edits. We just want to give you the general overview and our rationale, and then we can discuss more about how to move forward. So I don't need to go in depth into this. This isn't something that you all aren't familiar with, but the situation is essentially that manufacturing is a huge piece of the Vermont economy, and it's likely to grow. We're seeing new manufacturing folks join us. If there's an allocation in the legislature that's to be taken up right now that would actually even help out-of-state businesses build physical locations here. So it's likely something to grow, and it's a priority job area for the governor. It's a priority job area for the legislature. And in terms of our economy, it's crucial. But the problem is as I'm sure you all know, we are unable to fill the number of jobs that we have. And I think each of you understand that sometimes the conversations between employers and education providers, the state, our office is disjointed and not as clear as it could be. And so for us, our area of focus to have the most impact in the immediate term and the long term is to essentially supplement the work that the VMEC and Vermont Talent Pipeline Management are doing in developing a pipeline, and help them in assisting to develop this so that we have a clear, transparent, accessible pipeline into these jobs. But then also use our efforts to essentially create a campaign funded through Vermont the State Workforce Board budget and partially tourism and marketing if possible, to rebrand the idea of manufacturing targeted towards different age levels, but as a continuum on the spectrum, so that could help promote folks going to the different education institutions, seeking out Vermont employers, and ultimately choosing a career in manufacturing. I think one of the starkest examples was from that meeting we were at with you all, Robin, is someone saying, when a kid wants to be a CEO of a company, they recognize the entry-level job they take at that financial firm is not their forever job. But the perception a lot of kids have right now is that if they want to, grow in manufacturing, there's no growth. There's just the one job you can get that's on the entry level. And so we want to make sure that the career growth, but also the exciting opportunities that are available, but as well as, the realistic level of training folks can get, that doesn't necessarily have to be a 4-year degree, to get into some of these programs. So that's kind of like our situation and our solution. Again, in the edits, you guys can rip that apart and make changes so that it sounds more what the committee wants, but that's just kind of like our general understanding. And then into the milestones. So milestone 1 is just a placeholder. That's just for us to discuss at another meeting after we hear from folks from Robin's shop or from others about what's going on with VMEC and how we can support them. And then the dates on this are all fudgeable. We just put in, again, placeholder dates as we, people start to discuss priorities, but essentially by April of 2023, the committee will define the 3 core principles of our manufacturing rebranding plan and subplans for targeted age demographics. So, what are the 3 top things we want to come out of this that are, are we trying to promote, how cool the jobs are, that type of thing. Are we trying to promote this specific entry-level work? Are we trying to get folks into the education systems? Well, by that time, we'll workshop what our top 3 priorities. Again, I don't think April 2023 is really when it's going to happen because we need to go back and forth on this plan before we get there. But that's just placeholder date just to show you kind of how it would work, like in terms of what our deadlines are. So then what we would go on, the next kind of step would be the committee defining a list of success metrics to track on a campaign. So, for example, it could be number of kids who saw X flyer that, you know, enrolled in the Governor's Institute manufacturing program. That's just an example. Or, you know, number of students that have their career planning done that plan to go to VTC to, you know, do the CNC course. Or it, you know, those would be we would define what metrics for this campaign are success, and so that we can measure progress and readjust if possible. Then continuing, we'll meet with ACCD, tourism, marketing, Department of Economic Development, to develop our promotional materials. So the branding, what it's actually going to look like. They can do templates that are much more advanced than Abby and I on Canva, and establish what our sales funnel will be. So using our metrics, if we're casting a wide net, what does it look to translate into a successful, you know, is it someone joining a course? Is it someone attending a meeting? You know, what's the return that we're looking for in developing that sales funnel? Then by July of 2023, again, dates fungible, the committee will identify who our top stakeholders are for distribution and develop a distribution strategy. So, for example, let's say we went all in on flyers. Not recommending that, I'm just using that as an example. But we say these are the organizations that need to have these. We need to have someone going into a school for a day and doing this. We need to have, that would be the time where we say, okay, we have our promotional campaign. This is how we're going to distribute it. By August of 2023, we launched the campaign, and then our kind of longer term vision is that this committee could sponsor or promote events that happen in elementary, middle, high schools, targeted towards getting folks involved in the manufacturing and trades. So that could be either, you know, we work with, you know, the folks at, we work with Veronica and have folks come over to her shop for the day and do field trips, and we sponsor a field trip there. Or, you know, maybe we host some type of exploration fair. That's, you know, our kind of long-term goal is that we're involved in the schools, we're involved at each age level. And then, you know, the committee can evaluate how this campaign is working and what we need to do there. So I'll stop there and start taking questions. I see a question from Doreen. Is there a tool showing students her? So not fully, to answer your question, not fully fleshed out. We do have a lot of data from Advance Vermont, and we have data from our agency of education that could help inform the decisions we're making. So for everyone else, Doreen's question is, as far as promotional ideas, is there a tool for showing students and target audience income potential for savings at a young age versus college loans, delay in earning and interest on loans? That's something we could certainly develop with the tax department. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I also know we have a bunch of data from Advance Vermont and LMI on wage data, and we could do the math and on, you know, here's what the average loan is to go do this. Here's what you could be making after just going to VTC for a couple years and then doing this. So that's certainly, I think, a good point for promotional data. Other questions or feedback?
I think this is very, very exciting. And again, totally appreciate all the work that you've put into it. Just wondering, and I appreciate this, if our targeted, I mean, this one pager definitely speaks to, you know, K-12 or K-16, and just wondering, just for us as we're planning moving forward just to keep a bigger understanding that our audience can go beyond just K-12, right? And so thinking about those that want to upskill, or even veterans, or just folks that want those returnship opportunities too, just to keep that also at the forefront.
No, I think that's a good idea, Veronica. And I think our scope was limited in that, but I think, you know, we could do, when we're talking about maybe metrics, or when we're talking about targeting, we could identify what are some other groups that are not necessarily in the school system that we want to target. I think veterans is a great idea, especially maybe working with A4TD and Hireability and Dale on, you know, some older or middle-aged folks that use 802 Opportunity, you know, from the upskilling perspective as well, and getting folks into these jobs. So I think that's definitely good feedback for us. Oh, Barry?
A great concept. I think, of course, it's the details that are going to be really interesting to flesh out. And in my experience, that people move on a continuum. First they become aware of what this world is, and then they're willing to become excited about it and then get training. I think the opportunity here is to make sure that everything's in sync so that our activities kind of fall. Going back to your sales funnel, there are definitely known milestones for a learner's journey or path to get to employment. I think it aligns really well with what is our upfront messaging that creates that awareness, and then what are those activities that we do that creates the excitement until somebody's ready to go get trained and consider a career in a path.
Great. Anyone else? Thoughts or questions? Kirsten?
Will we be, and maybe this is a role of VMAC or in the talent pipeline, but there are some regional differences among, as you know, manufacturing around the state. Are we going to touch that at all or tap into that at all? Because Franklin County looks a lot different than Bennington County, which looks a lot different than Central Vermont. I mean, you don't even need me to go on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can. I think that should definitely be a part of it, especially, I mean, you're right. Just even the employers that are in the area is very different, but also even just the infrastructure is very different. So yeah, I think that's something that we could include as well as we're fleshing out the details. All right, so if there's no other thoughts, we do not have to, oh, Doreen, is that a new hand?
Yeah, and Robin can comment on this. I feel like as far as non-traditional outreach, like non-students, VMAC has pretty good connection to the manufacturing companies out there. And, if it was filtered through VMAC, they come out and visit, and they, kind of maintain some level of touch with manufacturing. So they might be an avenue. And Robin, again, you can comment on your thoughts there, but they might be a good resource for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. We're absolutely a fantastic resource for that, and pretty much that's what we live to do. So yeah, and our collaboration with the Vermont Talent Pipeline is certainly pretty new. So there's nothing that's set in stone. We had a great session a couple weeks ago just to announce to the world our collaboration in the manufacturing sector with them, and got some great feedback. It was a great meeting, and we hope to do more of the same in the next few months, have some more roundtables, have an event similar on a little bit of a larger scale than what we did on the 27th at VTC. So
yeah, great. So I think, in terms of that, obviously we're not putting no pressure on you at all. Keep us in the loop as to how we can be helpful, because I think that'll be, even if it just turns into the promotion of the pipeline, we want to make sure that we're in line with the work that you're doing. I don't know if Doreen's hand is new or old, but then I saw Barry and then I saw Monica.
I forgot to mention that Mass Tech is working on a really similar initiative. And if you guys are familiar with NERDIC, so we're tied in with Mass and a couple of the grants and the contracts that are going on through NERDIC. We became aware last week that Mass Tech is very willing to share. They're very much working through a marketing strategy, and I think they're a little bit advanced there. So it might be worth the group connecting with them and seeing what they have and sharing.
Yeah, definitely. Monica?
Yeah, so my question, and I don't know if this is for VMAC, but I certainly am in a position where I know I need machine operators, CNC operators, and the materials and through VMAC and the talent pipeline are geared toward those top 5 to 10 positions in the state. But is there also discussion around the support workers, the inspectors and warehouse workers and such that support these? Because I know for every probably 4 operators I have, there's a requirement that I need a support person for that. So is that going to include, is this program going to include some of that language? Would you anticipate?
The short
other
answer is
operations?
yes. Yeah, and that was something that was brought up at the meeting on the 27th, is that it's not just the folks on the floor, it's equally, the issue is with the support staff. So yeah, we did discuss that, Monica. Thank you for asking. Great question.
And I think for our perspective as well, Monica, we're going to keep this incredibly broad. We'll obviously target certain areas, but we want to make sure that, you know, we're getting folks into, you know, if they have aspirations, getting them into through the right avenue. So maybe in some cases that is a support services position and they want to do other things. So we can certainly include that as well. Doreen?
I'm not sure if this is the right place to ask, but I have a VMAT question. In the past, we've been able to receive some funding for training, ongoing on-the-job training that we do here. Is that something that is still available?
Yes, yeah, you can connect with, I can connect you with somebody, Doreen, or if you want to go straight to John Young, there is definitely money available.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely use that.
Okay.
And just for your awareness, obviously this is not for the immediate, but I believe we've increased, we proposed to increase their funding by, I want to say 3 million. So there's a little bit, there's more, there's going to be a bigger pot, hopefully after this time as well. And I know there's some set aside funding for, I don't remember what it's used for. I can get you more information, but if you know any folks that are, you know, in the CHIPS realm, we've got a little bit of match funding available for companies that are doing that. And Abby and I, again, we can send over what our budget proposals are. Not that it impacts any existing programs, but just so that you all know, you know, for planning purposes, if things might get through that you could tap into to help you.
Great, thanks.
Monica, is that a new hand or an old hand? Old. Okay. So we do not have to stay until 2. But for just so folks understand what the next steps are, Abby and I will take obviously very initial feedback today. We'll take that. We put it into a spreadsheet and send it back to you kind of, you know, what actions to be taken on each of, you know, the feedback that you've given. And we'll send you this 1-pager. Then we'll just basically continue rounds of edits with you, you know, and thoughts and things you have. And then we'll schedule another meeting for about a month or a month and a half from now, where then we, you know, workshop it again, talk through it again, and then we kind of rinse and repeat that process. And then, you know, ultimately our goal is for, you know, beginning of May to have this kind of fleshed out so that we can start moving forward. If that sounds good to everyone. Great. Well, thank you all for taking the time. As always, please feel free to reach out to us, and you're always welcome to tell us if we're doing something wrong or missing something. So we want to just be a resource to you as much as possible. Great. Have a good one, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
You.
Thanks.
Thank you.